Hi, I'm Beck. I love books, and today I'd like to talk to you about 20 books that I think should be on your radar for the Trans Rights Readathon. The Trans Rights Readathon, if you don't know what it is a readathon that happens from this year's from the 21st to the 31st of March. And the whole point in the readathon is to try and amplify and engage with and promote trans authors or books with trans main characters. This all culminates on the Trans Day of Visibility on the 31st of March. If you can, try and donate to your local trans charities, try and raise some money. But if you can't do that, then just promoting a book by a trans writer, sharing a post with some trans books on it, or responding to a video like this is really what it's all about. So half of these books I have already read, and half of these books I haven't read. They're on my TBR. Maybe not for quite this month, but for this year. I'm going to try and recommend all of these books to you quite quick fire in one sentence each, because when I'm watching these videos, I will know within one sentence if I want to read this book or not. So that's what I'm going to try today. Let me know what you think about the format of the video, and let's get into it. I've got a big stack of books here, so I'm going to reach over for my books and you're going to get my recommendations. The first book I would like to recommend for you that I have read is I'm a Fool to Want You, and this is a selection of short stories. It is beautiful and emotional. It's a collection of 9 short stories with weird magical realism featuring trans, non-binary sex workers. It's so hard to stick to one sentence, but I'm really going to try. I'll pop this here when I'm finished with it. Second book that I've read that I'd like to recommend to you is Sunbearer Trials, and I also have bonus celestial monsters here. This is a young adult fantasy in a Mexican-inspired fantasy world in which 10 semidioses complete in trials where the winner carries light, but the loser is sacrificed to replenish the sun's power. That's definitely going to easily be a neat pile, nice and casually in the middle of this video. Third book I've read that I would love to recommend to you this month is Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. This is literary fiction, and this follows the lives of 3 people, 1 trans woman, 1 man who detransitioned from a trans woman, and 1 who is cis, as they navigate womanhood, their bodies, life, motherhood, and belonging. I would also like to recommend to you as number 4, Hamajanglock. Nice, beautiful copy of it here. This is a futuristic and surprisingly emotional novel with the one last job trope, where a group of elite criminals collaborate or gamble to lose or win everything. I hope my pile doesn't make you anxious because it's hardbacks and paperbacks combined. Not much we can do about that. The 5th book I'd like to recommend to you all is one I just read. It's They Bloom at Night, and it's young adult horror. It's a coming of age in a toxic, sentient environmental crisis setting with high tension, Vietnamese influence, lots of tendrils of algae, a diverse group of characters, and possession by the sea. The 6th book I think should definitely be on your radar for the Trans Rights Readathon is Brainworms. Please check content warning. This is horror, and it's kind of commentary on TERFs and desire. With it's traumatized me, but it's left me with an aching gap of discomfort that no horror has ever quite been able to tap into since. I blame this for me now liking horror novels. It's very good. Something a bit different now. We have some poetry. My 7th recommendation is Content Warning Everything. And this is really lyrical. It has lots of interesting structures. It discusses home, homesickness, identity, and belonging. My 8th recommendation for you is She Who Became the Sun. This reimagines the rise of the Ming Dynasty's founding emperor as a peasant girl who disguises herself as a man to pursue her brother's fate. Ninth book I have read that I would like to recommend to you is The Passing Playbook, which is a young adult, very cute contemporary romance about a biracial transgender boy who must decide between staying hidden and fighting for his right to play football. And then I would like to recommend a graphic novel to you for my 10th book that I think should be on your radar, and it is I Shall Never Fall in Love. It is a beautiful convention-bending retelling of Pride and Prejudice. It totally took me by surprise by how sweet, emotional, and real the characters were, and it is the best graphic novel I have read this year by far. My last recommendation of books that I have read is None of the Above by Travis Alabanza, and it's a memoir. And I listened to the audiobook. It's narrated by Alabanza, and it's a well-executed but accessible discussion of what it means and feels like to fall outside the barriers of traditional transness. So now we're going to go on to some books that I have on my TBR. So I haven't read these books yet, but I've written a sentence to sum up why I want to read them. So we're still doing the one sentence each, hopefully. I'm going to start with another memoir, and that is Bad Habit. This follows a trans woman's journey in 1980s Madrid as she navigates a working class neighbourhood, a vibrant party scene, and the search for identity and acceptance. And I've only heard good things about this. The second book that's on my TBR for this month is The Bruising of Kilwa. It's a non-binary refugee healer who discovers a mystery illness causing non-healing bruises and fatigue, leading to political unrest and forcing them to use their blood magic to find a cure and a new home. Only heard good things about that one. The third book on my TBR is really cute, which you might think is unlike me, but I like cute, not cozy. It's The Heartbreak Bakery. It features a non-binary baker who creates magical brownies that cause heartbreak. And when their sort of heartbreaking brownies start causing ripples of heartbreak in Austin, in the queer community, they have to find a way to fix it, but also with their baking. Next one is one I've had for a long time, a shamefully long time, and it is The Unbroken. This is a military political fantasy set in a North African inspired world where a soldier, a princess clash, as each one is tasked with negotiating with rebels while one tries to seize the throne. The blurb for this says really not very much, and so that's why I've not picked it up, even though I've had it for a long time. But I've heard lots of good things about it in the past week, so that's why I'm putting it on my TBR. Next one I don't have yet is Stag Dance. It's a collection of stories exploring trans life and gender identity, and I love stories. Featuring a lumberjack dance and I believe a gender apocalypse, and it's got a focus on desire, identity, and community. The next book, this is the 6th book on my TBR I say for the readathon, but it will end up being the year, is Dragonfall. This is fantasy, and it features a gender fluid thief who accidentally summons the last male dragon through a magical ritual, leading to a forbidden romance and a quest to save both their worlds. We have another book here that I should have read already but have not, which is Little Rot. This follows a couple and their friends in Nigeria as they navigate a wild weekend after a breakup, leading them into the city's criminal underworld and exploring their moral decay. This around here. Then we have Hell Followed With Us. This is fantasy, and it's a 16-year-old trans boy who is infected with a bioweapon by the cult that raised him. Bioweapon sounds like a bit too comic-y for me, but cult, I'm interested. He flees into a post-apocalyptic world and seeks refuge with a group of queer teens, and basically he has to battle the cult. I've heard, again, only good things about this writer, so I'm quite excited to get stuck into my first one. And then I have, for my last book on my TBR, The Queens of Sarmiento Park, which is The same writer who wrote the first book that I recommended to you, the collection of short stories, and explores the lives of transgender sex workers in Argentina, centered around the community's struggles with societal rejection and the discovery of an abandoned baby. And I meant to read this one before I read this one, and I didn't get round to it. So I would like to finally get round to it today. Today, this readathon, that would be wonderful. I have a little bonus one for you. So this isn't really 20 recommendations as it is 21. But never mind, we'll forget about that. I got this today in the post, and it's another collection of poetry. It has a cool cover. It's called He, She, They, Us, and you can flip the cover to your chosen pronoun. But it's a collection of poetry that celebrates queer experiences, contemporary and historical, and it's been brought together by Charlie Castelletti. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into this too. I love poetry. So I'm excited that, as well as all of these books, I also have a new poetry collection. So thank you for that book. It's a book break. And there we have it. A whistle-stop tour of some books that I think absolutely must be on your radar if they're not already for the Trans Rights Readathon. What are your favourite books? Either written by trans writers or featuring trans rep. Are there any of these that you've read and that you liked? Is there any that really I should avoid? And did you like the one sentence format? Is it for you? Is it not for you? Let me know in the comments. If you've watched this far, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.